Welcome to the Beyond Sugar Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Dame, holistic nutrition coach and speaker. Let's dive in. Hey, welcome back to another incredible episode. I'm your host, Danielle Dame, sugar freedom coach and speaker, and I am just excited as ever to dive into another topic today. Oh my goodness, this is a good one. Really owning and learning to take personal responsibility for our lives and our emotions and our growth and our journey to sugar freedom. This is a huge, huge conversation and a huge piece that we all need to be aware of in our journeys with food. Right? If you ultimately want to have this sense of peace and freedom with food and in all areas of your life, you have to first be willing to take responsibility for your life. And the sad truth is most of us don't. And I'm here to share with love, share some tough love with a lot of you listening that may be in this victim mentality right now. And please know that we all have been at one point or another. And I still notice where this shows up in my life occasionally. And we can still navigate out of it and step by step, day by day, begin taking more and more responsibility for our lives and how we play a role in creating our reality. So this is a big topic. I'm really excited to dive in. But before I do, I also want to share this week's little insight and update. And I was sitting here before recording this episode wondering, okay, what's been going on for me this week that I can really share and impart some wisdom on all of you. And it hit me yesterday. Ben and I were in the sauna, and we often go in there and have an evening sauna to connect and decompress and share about our day. And it's a really lovely ritual that, in all honesty, I wish we did more than we do. We do it maybe once or twice a week, but it's really, really special when we do. And last night we did that. And in our connection, one of the practices that we occasionally do is eye gazing. And it's a really, really beautiful practice to do on your own in a mirror or with a loved one. It's a very, very deep way to connect with somebody's soul through the eyes, which are just the windows to our soul. I forget who said that, but it's so true. And it's really potent and powerful, often can bring up a lot of emotions, can feel really uncomfortable. Anyway, that's a whole nother side tangent about eye gazing and connection practices. But we were doing this, and in that practice, I brought in some silliness. I brought in some play, and I started making funny faces. And eventually what actually came up from that was this really beautiful conversation about connection and play and fun and joy. And the message I want to share with all of you that really came out of that is, like, a lot of us walk around having this belief that our spiritual growth, our evolution, our inner healing, all of this inner work that we're doing has to always be so serious, has to be so intense and difficult and lots of tears and emotional. And it's got to be really difficult. That's how we heal. That's how we grow. And that's not true. That's not true. So it was really beautiful conversation that we had last night around that belief for both of us and where that shows up, that it has to be serious all the time, and really starting to deeply reflect instead on ultimately the path to healing is through play and joy, because laughter and joy and play and silliness are an expression of our inner child and an expression of our soul. The light, when we feel light and joy and want to express it with a joke or silliness, this is ultimately a communication directly from our higher selves. And this is the path to healing, is tapping more into that playful side in all of us and being able to bring that into maybe deep, meaningful connections as well. Now, caveat here, and we did both talk about this last night too, that we do have to be careful, because a lot of times, and I so do this, and I don't do it as much as I used to because I'm aware of it now, but a lot of times we will also use humor and jokes and playfulness to actually cover up something deeper, right? So are you using humor, silliness, and play to avoid and escape and, get out of difficult situations or emotions in your body? Or are you using it to actually enhance? And is it actually a communication and an expression that's coming from your soul, wanting to shine outwards, right? Like we're all just light. And sometimes we need to let that light out. and not be so worried about keeping it trapped inside, right? Don't let your joy out. Don't be too happy. Don't be too out there. And I just wanted to share that, those thoughts. I mean, we don't have it all figured out, but this was really, really powerful last night, and remembering and realizing that play and joy as an expression of our higher selves and our inner child. And for me, one of the things that came up that I shared is that when I'm in deep connection and I'm feeling seen, I also need to be seen in my playful silliness. This is a part of my healing journey personally, because I didn't feel as a child that I was seen in that. So this is healing for me in those serious situations to also express my silliness and my playful side, and to be seen and witnessed in that is incredibly healing for a lot of us. So please invite more of that into your life, and start checking in around maybe some beliefs that you might have around how difficult and serious and emotional this healing has to be, because it doesn't. A lot of the healing actually happens when we just open up to joy, right? And we open up to being playful and connecting with our inner childs. So open up to that. That's the message for all of you today. And I'm hoping that helps unfold some new realms and some new lightness in your life. I think we've all been through a lot of heavy darkness over the last few years, and we need more lightness. And we need to give ourselves permission to feel that and express it as well. So you have permission to do that. Go out and do it. Go play, go be silly, go be seen and honored in all of your amazing glory, and let that be a part of your healing journey too. Now, I want to share some exciting news as well. I know I just mentioned this on the last episode, but I want to mention it again here quickly, that I am already starting to curate and plan for the next incredible program that I'm going to be hosting in the fall of 2022. So if you want to be the first to know about what my group programs are all about, and this one's going to be a little different than the one that I just hosted, so I'm really excited for that, kind of a different angle to really healing our deep root causes and our emotional connections to food. So buckle up. It's going to be powerful. This is a 10-week program called the Break Free from Sugar group program, and I'm going to be hosting it again. This is my signature program. I've hosted over 6 times now, and it is so potent and transformational, the healing that we do as a collective of women in this incredible journey. So I hope that you will join us. And I can't stress enough, get your name on the wait list. I always do some special discounts and bonuses and early access for people on the wait list. So just if you're curious at all, just make sure to get your name down, and you'll be the first to know when I release details in the fall and open up registration for the next round of the program. So find that link in the show notes below, and hope to see you there. Okay, let's dive into today's topic. Okay, we're talking about responsibility, taking personal responsibility for your life. What does this mean? What do I mean? Okay, and ultimately, big picture here, what I'm talking about is this inner way of being where you're either taking responsibility for your life or you're playing the victim. So there's victim mentality, which is very much encouraged in the society that we live in. And there's really fully understanding how powerful and incredible you are and taking responsibility for your life. Sometimes there might be a gray area. There's always some gray areas. Life isn't black and white. So there might be some sort of in between, but usually we're either sort of more towards one side or the other in any given moment and situation. Now, a lot of you may be wondering, why bother changing this? I like being the victim. It's helpful. It gives me something to whine about all the time and to relate to other people about. We use this in society so often as a way to connect in a really, really toxic connection type of way with other people, right? Let's complain about the weather together. I mean, obviously, we can't really take personal responsibility for what the weather's doing, but we can take personal responsibility for how we react about the weather and how we show up, right, in our day-to-day, depending on the weather. We have a lot of power there. So where are you really showing up as a victim? And why bother changing out of it? So this is really important because, sometimes it can feel like playing the victim is just easier. It can feel like it's just it gets me a lot of sympathy. It's actually what our ego loves to do, is to play the victim, right? It helps me connect with people. It means I don't have to really blame myself for anything, and I can just blame everything else. So if that's working for you, kudos to you. I doubt it. I've never met somebody who really lives their best life living from victim mentality and not from growth mindset, right? We can put this another way too. And I know there's a lot of great books out there that talk about like fixed mindset versus growth mindset, right? Fixed mindset being like, well, these are the cards that I've been dealt. This is my life. There's nothing I can do about it. Versus, wait, I can always do something. I can grow. I can learn. I can change things. I can always evolve. So this is very similar, right? And the reason that I want all of you to start taking responsibility for your life, even when it's difficult, is because this is ultimately the most freeing and empowering and peaceful way to live and operate. Ultimately, you're here listening to this podcast because you want freedom with food, right? And ultimately, that really stems from freedom from within. And that's freedom in all areas of your life. So you like freedom. Let's just guess. I'm guessing you like freedom. It's a value of yours. Welcome to the club. It's one of my highest values as well. And when we live our lives in victim mentality, we essentially live shackled to our cards that we've been dealt. And we are so disempowered from ever being able to do anything, right? We think everything is impossible because I've had this and this happen to me, and oh, my government is doing this, and I just can't. And this is no way to live. Ultimately, you're a prisoner. You're a prisoner to your victim mentality. And I'm going to take another guess that you don't want to be a prisoner. You want to feel free. You want to have sovereignty in your body and, have emotional expression and live your best life. Feel powerful in your body, in your mind, and really live life, thrive, enjoy, go after your dreams. I'm hoping that's what you want. I'm hoping that's who's listening. If not, this might be the wrong podcast for you, but hopefully not. And it's okay to acknowledge that maybe you're not fully living from this place. And I'm going to share with you how you can know and some really good tips and cues to pay attention to. But ultimately, this is the difference between blaming everyone else and the universe for the tough situations in your life and fully finding peace and acceptance in your power to create the life you really want. That's what we're talking about here, right? This is ultimately, you can choose to stay stuck in the blame game. You can stay there, right? Oh, it's the universe's fault. It's the full moon's fault. I often use that one. I still use that one. I'm feeling like crap today. Must be the full moon. But, I do it in a joking way. And where are you really leaning into that though? Where are you blaming your boss for not giving you a raise? Or, oh, it's my husband's fault that I'm still hooked on sugar because he keeps bringing sugar into the house. We do this left, right, and center, really giving our power away and essentially blaming everyone outside of us, everything, the situation. Maybe we blame our government or the weather or, the situation that we're in at home, right? Blame. And I really just want to see you in that. If you're having a moment right now, which often happens when I have this conversation of, oh my goodness, that's me. I'm doing that. Please do not slip into the guilt shame spiral. This is not your fault. This is honestly how our society does encourage us to live, right? To commiserate, to complain, to blame. These are all things that we've been encouraged to do. We've seen it. Our parents did it. Our friends do it. They do it in the movies. So it does take a brand new set of skills to really start learning for yourself to think and operate differently. Now, I want to talk here before I talk about like how you can pinpoint where this is showing up for you. I want to talk specifically about taking emotional responsibility. I just wrapped up the emotional empowerment group program, and we talked a lot about our emotions, obviously making friends with our emotions, learning to feel again. So we're not turning to food to numb out. And one of the big things that we did dive into and obviously have to work through is our emotional responsibility. So what I mean by this, and this is a subset obviously of taking responsibility for our life in all areas, we can take responsibility for our emotions. So, and if you're not sure where to start with your whole personal responsibility journey, start here. Start with the emotions. And the truth here is most of us spend all day, every day blaming everyone else for how we feel. It's his fault that I'm sad or her fault that I'm angry. We're always doing this. Or it's the full moon's fault that I'm feeling like crap today. That's one I've used. So we do this, and this is human tendency. But the ultimate truth is that you are 100% responsible for your reaction, your response, your emotional trigger to any situation. That's right. If someone cuts you off on traffic, you have the choice to be compassionate and understanding or go into full rage. That is your inner choice. And it may not feel like a choice because sometimes those emotional reactions just are instinctual. They're coming from your patterns and your trauma, and it's just immediate. So you're not sitting there going, how should I react? Taking a couple seconds to think about it and then choosing rage. It comes immediately and it feels compulsory, but it's not. It's ultimately the way that you are choosing to view that situation, to view that person who cut you off on traffic. And you can choose a different reaction. You can choose compassion. Maybe that person is rushing to the hospital because they're in grave danger. I don't know. But I'm going to choose that option because then it doesn't derail me all day. So the anger is not actually serving. So we can start to really choose our thought patterns and thus choose our emotional reactions. And this takes a lot of practice, especially with the emotional stuff. If someone yells at you and then you're feeling really sad, right? How is that not that person's fault? They were really mean to me. Sure. But you could, again, in that moment, choose different. You could choose to not let it affect you. You could choose to know that that person's anger was probably rooted in some sort of pain that they're going through and has nothing to do with you. And their outburst and their lack of healthy communication style also has nothing to do with you. And you could reject that as an emotion that someone's trying to put on you. And you could choose instead to respond with love or to deflect that and to stay grounded and connected with yourself. Yes, I'm making this sound really easy, but it's not. I get it. It's very, very much not. And this trigger emotional work is really nuanced and tricky and takes a lot of practice. And I've been practicing for a good 5 years now, and it's still a work in progress. I've come so far, and this rarely shows up for me now, but sometimes, yeah, I'll get triggered. Someone will say something and it'll just get me. And instead of blaming that person for making me feel any certain way, immediately I get curious about why it triggered me. What wound am I not seeing that I still need to heal through? Usually it's something about being left out or not fitting in, or it's some of those deep survival wounds that usually show up for me, but it might be something different for you. And it's an invitation to start looking at it differently and knowing like, ooh, my body is having this response and where's my part in it? So just as you are 100% responsible for your emotional reaction, others are also 100% responsible for their reactions. This is really important because this is people pleasing 101. I bet if we were in a room together, 90% of you would put up your hand when I ask, how many times have you taken ownership of someone else's emotion? It's my job to make so-and-so happy. Most of us had that job in childhood. I know so many of my clients have reflected on that. Like, ooh, I had to make sure mom was happy all the time, or she would yell, right? So we learn to take on this emotional baggage and this emotional responsibility for other people's lives. We have to stop it. We have to stop it now because it is killing us and causing us to stay hooked on sugar and various other unhealthy patterns. So when you show up with love and communicate effectively and are a kind human being, and you do something like decline a dinner invitation or say, sorry, I can't help you move because I really need to rest this weekend, and that person gets angry about it, that is not your responsibility. Other people's emotional reactions to you living your life and the choices that you make is not your responsibility. It kind of reminds me of that saying, I forget who said it, right? That other people's opinions of me are none of my business. I love that saying. We need to have one around emotions. Like, other people's emotions are none of my business. And no, that doesn't mean you can't be compassionate and empathetic and supportive when people are having some sort of emotional challenge, but it does mean that you cannot take ownership of it. Like, ooh, this person is really upset by me, not being able to go over and hang out tonight. How can I support them in that, right? Knowing that it's not your fault. We blame ourselves left, right, and center for other people's lives. And it's killing us. It's giving our power away every single day, every minute. Not only do we give it away to food, we give it away to people, and we got to stop it. I'm going to say that again. Please start noticing where you're doing this, because I guarantee you're doing it. It's human nature. I still catch myself doing it. It's part of being a human. There's no blame or guilt in this. This is just an awareness practice. Being awareness for yourself. Where am I taking ownership of my emotional reaction? And where am I taking responsibility for someone else's that's not actually mine? Sometimes this can show up as like apologizing, right? I know the joke for Canadians is we say sorry all the time, right? And it's true. We're always apologizing. Oh, I'm so sorry I made you feel sad. That's an incorrect statement. You didn't make anybody feel anything. Their ego chose to make them feel sad, not you. We don't have that kind of power over other people, right? It may feel like we do sometimes, but ultimately at the core, we don't. That person's higher self, their ego, their traumas are speaking through and choosing to feel that emotion. Same with you. Okay, we all, ourselves, the people we're in relationships with, see the world through our own beliefs, right? Our own lens of past traumas and our life experiences. So when you say something seemingly innocent, and I'll tell you, I can't even count the amount of times that I have accidentally triggered people in my life by living my life and being light and love and realizing, whoa, what just happened there? I thought, because I didn't respond immediately to your text message, I'm now you feel upset. But, I've been blindsided many times not knowing why did I trigger someone? And really, it's taught me a lot about understanding how other people are coming to situations with their own expectations, their own trauma, their own lens. And luckily, I've had people in my life that have taken full responsibility for their own lives that have helped me see this in relationship. And it's been so potent and powerful. And it's such an incredible, empowering, and free way to live your life. So that's your reminder around emotions. Here, please stop taking responsibility for other people's emotions. And at the same time, please start taking responsibility for yours. And knowing that you are powerful enough to choose a different emotion. Ultimately, choosing a different story and thought pattern and belief comes before. So you've got to choose a different story about a situation. Maybe you've lost your job and you could really be in a puddle of grief, which is very real reaction. And by no means am I saying you shouldn't feel those things. Those heavy emotions are very important to feel, but also understanding that the story that you might be creating that emotional reaction might be, well, I guess I'm just a horrible person and I'm never going to find a job again. Or you could choose to believe that the loss of this job is creating space in your life for something even better. I love that belief. When something leaves, right? It's like the whole, when a door closes, another one opens. It's so true. That's a law of the universe. So maybe you think that instead, and maybe that softens the grieving period. Not to say you won't grieve, right? Oh, it sucks. Obviously, it's always going to feel crappy to lose your job or a person in your life or somebody passes away. But the story that you're telling yourself is a choice. And the emotion that ensues and follows that is also a choice. So responsibility with your emotions. So how do you know if you're not taking responsibility for your life? How do you know? I know I've mentioned a couple of things already, but the biggest red flags, and I want you, the intention of this is from this episode, your homework, your action item is to just start paying attention to your language. Start paying attention to the words coming out of your mouth and the thoughts showing up in your head. Because the biggest red flags to start watching for is complaining, blaming, and making excuses. Right? Oh, I can't come over tonight because I'm so poor. And yeah, my boss won't give me a raise. So my life is really hard right now. Are you doing this? Right? Are you playing this on repeat? And most of us are in some way. Right? Oh, my boss is such a jerk, or my husband doesn't support me. Or it's always raining and I can't get out and exercise. My life is horrible. I know I'm kind of overdoing it, but these are things that show up, right? That we constantly get sucked into complaining, right? Complaining and blaming about situations in our life, people in our lives, our emotions. Like, oh, just can't give up sugar. It's so hard. Well, where are you not taking personal responsibility for your journey and the healing that you need to do in order to make it easy? There's so much that we can do when we start changing the way we see things. So start paying attention, and start keeping track of when are you complaining? Where are you blaming? What are you blaming? And where are you making excuses in your life? Right? Like, oh, I just don't have enough time. That's my favorite excuse. Because it is an excuse. We will always have enough time and money for the things that actually matter. So if you're complaining about it, it means you're not taking responsibility for your calendar, right? Oh, I just don't have enough time in the day. Are you always whining and complaining about it? It means you're not taking control and being empowered when it comes to your schedule. You're obviously jam packing your schedule way too full and not changing it. So you can change it. And instead, a way around that would look, my schedule is getting way too busy for my liking right now. And I'm going to start saying no to some things. I'm going to start changing some things in my calendar to make time for the things that I want to make time for. That would be taking responsibility for your time. So start paying attention. A couple other things that you can do, as we wrap this up, I want you to start feeling empowered. First step is to keep track of what I just said, right? Start making a list. I actually at one point started a complaint journal. I'd heard somewhere along the way somebody recommend that, and it was really eye-opening because all the things that I was complaining about were the really big areas in my life that I was not taking responsibility for. And oh boy, was it eye-opening. I really had to face that. Right? A lot of this work is actually having to get really honest with ourselves and face some truths that maybe we don't really want to face. So just know that that's part of the journey and it's okay. And it doesn't mean you're any less of an amazing human being. This means you're just a human being. This is all stuff and all patterns that we all go through. So you're not alone in this, okay? But start making those lists. Just keeping track. And that is really stage one, is bringing in that awareness, right? Just starting to observe and be aware, non-judgmental. No guilt, no shame, no judgment, okay? Just observing. Be an investigator. Be curious. Curioso. And then what you're going to start doing is opening up to things like journaling about it. Like journaling about why am I playing the victim? What am I getting out of playing the victim? This is a big one because we're getting something out of it. You're getting some sort of false sense of connection or power, or there's something that you're getting out of complaining, right? Or blaming. Right? Ooh, then I don't have to take responsibility for these things that, I'm not doing, right? And this is a big one when it comes to our relationship with sugar, right? Oftentimes we don't want to look at the role that we're playing in constantly relapsing or constantly binging on sugar. And this can be a really, really tough pill to swallow. And I want all of you to know, if you're listening to this, that I have so much compassion. And I want you to also have compassion for yourself here, because this can be really hard to look at when we start fully taking back control and understanding how powerful we are. We start understanding that we've created our own reality. And sometimes that can be really difficult when the situations that we're in, maybe, you're struggling with health issues, or you've gained a lot of weight, or you just can't stop binging on sugar. I mean, these things can be really hard wounds to look at. Oh my goodness, I got myself here. And instead, I want you to choose a different thought pattern if that's coming up for you, and start understanding that this was all perfectly part of the plan for you. You needed to have these experiences in maybe deteriorating health or challenges that you're going through in order for you to wake up and start making changes. I believe in the divine alignment of timing of things. So there's no accident that you're where you are. Yes, it sucks that maybe you contributed to getting yourself to where you are, but it also means that you can contribute to getting yourself out of it. Okay. And this is the powerful piece. So start journaling. Another great tool that you can start to do, and this is what I have in my life that's been so helpful, is ask people or cultivate new friendships, other people in your life that also want to take responsibility for their life, and ask them to gently point it out. Sometimes we just don't see what's going on, right? Like, I'm so grateful. My husband always pointing out, hey, stop complaining, right? You're complaining right now. Where are you not taking responsibility? And I go, oh yeah, right, right. And I catch it because I know that it's just so on autopilot. So ask those around you if you have a good relationship, right? And it's not going to tarnish the relationship, maybe find an accountability buddy with someone that, also wants you to notice and call them out when they're doing these things, the blame game, the complaining, the excuses. And then you're also just going to continue to stay open and curious. Okay? Staying open and curious as anything unfolds. And over time, you're going to start noticing that you're playing less the victim. So when you have this awareness, right? And the more you practice calling yourself out in the moment, right? Noticing when you're complaining or being the victim, the more you practice, the quicker it gets. So sometimes you might like play a victim or blame game and then realize it the next day. Oh, yesterday I did that. Yeah, that was me yesterday. Oops, I was definitely not taking responsibility. And you're going to reflect on it and you're going to say, how could I take responsibility of that situation? What parts am I playing in there? And yes, there's always going to be parts that are out of your control, but there's always going to be a part that is in your control because your reaction to anything is in your control. And what you do about any situation is in your control. You can't control that it's going to rain, right? Like I said earlier, but you can control what you're going to do about it and what you're going to say about it. You're going to complain about it, or you're going to get out there for your run or adjust your day so that you're having a cozy day inside and you're enjoying that. So when you notice you're playing the victim, the more you practice that, the quicker you're going to get at it. So for instance, I'm at the place right now where as soon as I find myself blaming or complaining, I can call myself out in the moment. Like in one sentence, I'll start complaining about something and then I go, oops, wait, nope. And I change my thought pattern. So the more you practice, the closer that's going to get to like being in the moment. And that is powerful because when you do that in the moment, you're starting to rewire and you're starting to choose a new belief. You're starting to choose a new story and a new way of seeing things. So ultimately, you're going to be more empowered and you're going to be really stepping into this sense of freedom and peace and fullness of life where you get to really own and know how powerful you are. It's incredible. There is no better feeling in the world to know that you have control and power over how you react, how you show up, the choices you make. And it's going to improve your relationships. It's going to improve your relationship with food, yourself. Like this is really deep work that is so potent in really ripple affecting into all areas of your life. So I hope this was eye-opening. And I hope that you are lovingly calling yourself out in some areas of your life right now, because that's how you're going to grow and change, right? Is really noticing first, like, ooh, yeah, I'm doing this a lot. And I want you to know most people are doing this a lot. So if you're noticing that right now, that is okay. That is very common and very normal. You're not alone, but you've got to get started. So maybe you start with taking emotional responsibility and starting to practice that. I think that's one of the biggest areas and most impactful areas to start taking responsibility. And then starting to take responsibility in other places, in relationships, in your job, in different places, in your relationship with food, your struggles with sugar. Where is that actually coming from? And what part are you playing in it? And then do something about it. Now you get to be empowered and say, oh, okay, if I created that, I can uncreate it, or I can do something different about it. And this is where I want you to really feel into your power and know how powerful you are, because you are just incredible. And the power that you have in your mind to achieve the things that you want to achieve, whatever that is so unbelievably potent that once you start tapping into it, you'll know what I mean. You'll know what I mean. And life will never be the same. So I hope that really hit home. And I hope that you are going to start in whatever way, little way, big way, really start bringing this awareness around where this is showing up for you and how you can start shifting out of it. Yeah. So let's do it. That's your homework. Go start taking responsibility for your life. No small feat. Okay. Yes, this is a big piece of homework. And as you know, I encourage as much as possible, okay, to not just let this be another episode that you listen to, that you actually take some steps, right? Your transformation and your struggles and challenges are never going to end just by absorbing more information. Okay, you actually have to apply what you're learning. So if any of this resonated with you, please apply it. And please share this episode with those that you love so that you can take personal responsibility together. Please, 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 I would be honored if you share this. Share this with those that you love. Share this episode around on social media. It really helps me grow the podcast and reach more people and spread more empowering messages to other women just like you. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I can't wait to tune into another episode. I'm so grateful that you tuned in today. I hope you loved this as much as I loved talking about it. And I can't wait to hear what you think. As always, come and send me a message on Facebook or Instagram. Send me a DM. I would love to hear your thoughts and your takeaways from this episode and keep the conversation going. All right, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. If you're loving what we talked about today, please remember to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone you love. And if you're ready to dive deeper into discovering your root causes and patterns that are keeping you hooked on sugar, be sure to check out our brand new free workshop series that will help you kick emotional eating for good. Find the link to download this free series and other amazing resources in the show notes below.